Hello and welcome back to my Lorethrough series. Last time we finished up the NPC Questlines on the mainland of Limgrave. Today we'll talk about the tunnels, graves and caves, then finish up some optional bosses and finally take on Margit. We already talked about the Groveside Cave with the Beastman of Farum Azula and the Murkwater Cave with Patches in the previous episodes. So we will start with Limgrave Tunnel. It's a mine where we can stock up on some upgrade materials for our weapons. The boss is a Stone Digger Troll. As the Roar medallion that he drops tells us, he is a descendant of the giants who were once mortal enemies of the Earth Tree. In my opinion, this boss is not too difficult, but if you are struggling with him, any headshot with a ranged weapon will stagger him, as their heads still bear old wounds. Let's talk about the catacombs next. They give us more information about death in Elden Ring, elaborating on what we already talked about in the last episode. You can find these catacombs with the help of these statues. They're sort of a mirror of the Guidance of Grace, but in blue, and for dead spirits who weren't returned to the Earth Tree by others, so they have to find their own way to a burial site. A spirit NPC in Stormfoot Catacombs explains this principle of returning to the Earth Tree. In the catacombs, your objective is usually to collect upgrade materials for your spirit ashes while trying to find a lever that opens the door to the boss guarding the burial site. In this case, the boss is a mechanical Earth Tree burial watchdog, and if you defeat him, you can steal the noble sorcerer ashes that was about to be returned to the Earth Tree. You can see the methods of Earth Tree burial here, with all these bodies that have been accepted by the Earth Tree's roots. The principle is the same for the Murkwater Catacombs, except the way to the lever is much shorter, and the guardian of the burial site this time is a Grave Warden duelist. The spirit we can obtain from him is Banished Knight Engval, one of the two banished knights called Wings of the Storm. He rejected the invitation of the Lord of the Capital, instead guarding a masterless castle for years, becoming a hero of the fringes. Outside of the death-touched catacombs, there is a spirit NPC lamenting the corruption of this burial site, and the once buried spirits now living in death as skeletons, refusing the Earth Tree's call. However, we have established last episode that this is most likely an involuntary process, which this NPC seems to not know. Naturally, since corruption by Deathroot occurred on this burial site, the Beast Eye quivers, signaling the Deathroot that caused the corruptions close by. Once we see the boss of these catacombs, we see a possible way of how this burial site was corrupted. The boss is a wounded Black Knife assassin, the group of all females that stole the fragment of the Rune of Death, killed Godwyn and made Deathroot a thing in the first place. She may have brought a piece of Deathroot here, which corrupted this burial site. She drops the Assassin's Crimson Dagger talisman. Finally, we have the massive Fringe Folk Heroes grave, which we skipped at the start of the game. It is honestly still too high level, so if you find it too difficult you can skip it for now, but since it belongs to Limgrave, I'm now going to talk about it. After running through this poison pool and avoiding the chariot, we drop down at the side of this bridge, which leads to a secret portion of the grave. We fight our way past some imps and fire traps into this room where we are ambushed by not one, but two grafted scions. We are not killing these. We just pick up the Earth Tree Favor Talisman, drop onto this ledge and into the pool of water. Then we head up the elevator, take out the Banished Knight's spirit, and have a look at these 3 explosive pots at the ceiling. Shooting an arrow at one of these ropes at the right time makes them fall down and destroy the chariot, allowing easier progression and granting us the Erdtree Greatbow. Once we arrive at this crossroads here, the path right leads to another banished knight's spirit, who drops the Dragon Communion seal. As a side note, Dragon Communion is a possible explanation for why these knights were banished in the first place, since we learned from Yura 2 episodes ago that Dragon Communion is a practice looked down upon as ruinous. Walking down from the crossroad leads to the boss of this grave, the ulcerated tree spirit. Defeating it grants us the ashes of the other wing of the storm, Oleg. Unlike Engvall, he accepted the invitation of the Lord of the Capital, killing traitors as his right hand, and by that earned the right of Erdtree burial. Erdtree burial is the fastest way of one's spirit to return to the Erdtree and is only granted to heroes. Interesting little story told between those two, both banished but choosing completely different life paths after their banishment. Yet both end up in our pockets as spirit ashes. So in the end, they are kind of reunited. Finally, as for caves, there is this really cool hidden cave called High Road Cave that I honestly hadn't found ever until I did research for this Lorethrough. It goes quite deep and has some unique enemy variety, with the boss of the cave being a Guardian Golem. The Guardian Golem drops the Blue Dancer charm, which gives a little bit of history background about the Lands Between, about a god that was rot itself being sealed away by a dancer with a flowing sword technique. We may come back to this lore point at some point later on. As for other miscellaneous stuff, you may have found this painting in the artist's shack while exploring Limgrave. This is actually a puzzle where you need to find the place that it's depicting, which is in this case close to the seaside ruins site of Grace. Once you get there, you see the spirit of the artist, and your reward is an incantation scarab, which looks quite silly when you wear it, honestly, and reduces the FP cost of incantations at the cost of taking more damage. Having explored most of Limgrave now, we're going to take revenge on the Tree Sentinel that we skipped at the start of the game, before rematching with Margit. The golden halberd it drops doesn't give us much information about who exactly the Tree Sentinels are, apart from being an order of knights that are assumedly defending the Erdtree and the Golden Order. One other optional boss we skipped over earlier is the Crucible Knight in Stormhill Everjail. The Crucible was the stump of the old Great Tree where all life was once blended together, out of which the strongest branch ended up forming the Erdtree. So these Crucible Knights, using the power of the old stump that the Erdtree grew out of, are quite old indeed. The Crucible Knights ended up serving Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, at the dawn of the Erdtree's age. You could say the Crucible Knights played quite a crucial role in the history of the Lands Between. Don't forget to subscribe for more bad jokes. However, it seems after the banishment of Lord Godfrey, the Crucible Knights also fell from grace, since this one seems to have been locked up. North of Stormhill Shack, we can find one of the quite creepy finger reader crones.
You, please, I can read them. Your fingers, please, your fingers. Oh, bless you. Head to the foundation of gold, tarnished. Traverse Rhea Lucaria, glintstone eventide, and reunite the half crescents at the grand lift. Oh, but the bridge is collapsed and cannot be crossed. Only, why should that matter? Stormvale Castle still stands tall.
She asks us to let her read our fingers, and as a sort of fortune teller, she tells us to get to Altus Plateau by going through Raya Lucaria Academy and activating the Grand Lift of Dectus, where we currently have half the medallion from Fort Height. However, the bridge to the Academy is broken, so we will have to head through Stormvale, which was our plan anyways, since we want to challenge Godric. However, we can jump down this bridge a little bit in order to find a dung beetle that has the Ash of War Stormwall. Stormwall? That sounds like it might be quite useful, considering we're going to Stormvale Castle. It's now finally time, the moment we've been waiting for. After so many episodes of preparation, we can take our revenge on Margit the Fell Omen. Having gotten much stronger has made defeating Margit much easier. We end up getting him on our first go. Having defeated him, let's talk about him and some hidden details you might have missed during the boss fight. If you look closely at the cutscene before the fight, he appears out of thin air in one of those towers, and upon defeating him, he doesn't dissolve into white dust like the other creatures we killed. Instead, he disintegrates into golden light and keeps talking even after his apparent death.
I shall remember thee, tarnished, smouldering with thy meager flame. Fear of the night, the hands of the fell omen shall brook thee no quarter.
This is because Margit is merely an illusion of one of the demigods in the opening cutscene. As such, we are sure to meet him again at some point. While disappearing, he threatens us with the hands of the Fell Omen that appear at night, which brings us to the final topic of this video, one that we skipped over so far and you might not even know exists: optional bosses that only appear at night. The hands of the Fell Omen that Margit was talking about are called Knight's Cavalry, and one of those can be found at the highway bridge east of the gatefront side of Grace. He drops the powerful Ash of War repeating thrust that you can put on some non-Somberstone weapons. If we visit Bernal's shack at night, a bell-bearing hunter that was likely trying to kill him invades in his place. This boss is incredibly tough as he does his best Darth Vader impression, swinging his sword around with the Force. Who is he and where does he get this power from? We cannot answer this question just yet. After a couple of attempts, he goes down and drops the bell bearing of his last victim, who was a bone peddler. Very close to his shack on this ruin, a deathbird appears at night. You can see me destroy this one in seconds here, as they are very weak to holy damage. He drops the blue feathered branch sword. This talisman tells us that these birds used to carry out ancient death rituals, meaning they were likely responsible for death before the age of Marika and the Earth Tree. That just about covers everything on the main land of Limgrave. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and the last couple of episodes. See you next time when we talk about the Weeping Peninsula. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed, or comment what I could improve about these videos in the future. Goodbye.